Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode on the Cerebral Cricketer podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest on the show. So we have Param Uppal, who's a right-handed batsman off spinner, who has represented Australia at the under-19 level and has played for New South Wales and Cricket Australia at the Sheffield Shield and List A level. So thank you for coming on the show, Param.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on here.
I wanted to ask because I know obviously from subcontinent background, and from your bio, you were born in India. So do you have any early memories, growing up in India or playing cricket in India in particular?
Yeah, not too much. I was pretty young when I came over here. I was around say 3 or 4. Few memories, obviously, just growing up playing with your cousins, wherever you get a chance. So yeah, not too much. I was pretty young, so it's hard to remember early on those days. But yeah, obviously when I moved over here, whether it be the front yard or just going down to the local ground, that's basically where that love started.
And at what age did you move to Australia?
So I was 4 at the age of 4. So yeah, straight all the way to Sydney. So yeah, and been here ever since.
And what made you interested in cricket? I assume you would have been playing from a young age as well.
Yeah, so I guess you mentioned it earlier on being from a subcontinental background. I guess we love watching the sport. Dad's a massive fan of the sport, whether it be cricket or just any sport in general. I think yeah, growing up in that environment, I've loved, let's say, golf, F1, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, cricket was the main one growing up.
And I read somewhere as well your dad played cricket himself.
Yeah, I think he played for, I guess, the college he played for back in India. So yeah, he had a good crack at it. And then I know he played like club cricket here in Sydney as well. Like when I was growing up, I guess that Saturday afternoon cricket. So yeah, he had a good crack at it.
And growing up, what sort of conversations did you have with him about cricket? Like, in what way did he influence you when it comes to cricket?
Yeah, he obviously had a major part in where I am today. He's watched the sport a lot. He has a great knowledge of the game. So I guess whether that be technical, tactical, he's learned a lot from watching over the years, and he just I guess kept me grounded in that aspect as well. Like never going too high if you do well, never going too low when you're going through a rough patch. So just maintaining that balance and always trying to get better. I think that was the main message from him growing up and still is today.
And what sort of technical knowledge in particular when it comes to your batting that he like train you in the nets, or like what efforts in specifically when it comes to technical training did he give you?
Yeah, so I don't know. Like growing up, we did watch a lot of India play. So I guess they're obviously the really technically sound, good on the eye to watch batsmen. So just trying to replicate that, trying to I guess stay balanced. Um, we watched Sachin growing up, so he was probably the best at it in terms of technical aspect of things. But yeah, keeping it simple, trying not to think too much about it. Like I know T20 cricket's played a big part in today's cricket. About obviously you want big sixes and you want crowds coming into the game, but I'm still a massive fan of the red ball. So keeping it simple. I think Joe Root showed that really well last night. There's still that art of the form of the art still in this game. So yeah, just that aspect of things he really honed in me.
And I know that when I was reading, I think an article, you've had many coaches, but I suspect that Neil Costa also trained you from an early age
Yeah.
potentially.
So Neil was a bit later in my career, I guess. Probably the after 2022. I've been with him ever since for the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, he's obviously trained a really high level of players. I know Phil Hughes, Marnus as well. So and Michael Clark. So I think he's obviously had a really good experience in terms of creating like prodigies in terms of batting aspect of things in New South Wales. And yeah, just trying to replicate that what he hones in terms of tactical aspect and technical as well. Like the way he teaches his things is pretty interesting.
And what specifically do you feel like he's benefited you the most? Was it some technical tweak that he made to your batting, or anything could be mental as well?
Yeah. So when I actually started seeing him, I had actually lost my contract in New South Wales. So I felt like I think I needed a change. Try to reach out to a few people, and I think Neil was the first name that came up. Um, his theory was like he's always been very motivating for me, trying to find a way to be okay. You got to be that 1% special, different to everyone else. Yeah, he really helped in terms of that mental aspect of like being ruthless. It's never enough. I think you got to whether it's with the bat or with the ball. I think even just in terms of winning games, you got to really love that aspect of it. Um, Yeah, I think mentally he really helped in that aspect. There was a few technical tweaks he helped as well. I guess to counteract a fast bowling, and then spin work as well. Like I got the chance to train with Marnus a fair bit, and he's probably one of the better players that's been going around internationally. So I think learning from them was really beneficial to my game today.
And on top of that, from a also from a younger age, your dad's had an influence. But were there any other coaches from a young age that shaped you as a batsman or as a
Yeah, for
player?
sure. So early on, I had the chance to work with Gordon Lowe. I'm pretty sure he's still coaching, I guess, at that junior level. He coached me right through from tens, under tens, all the way down to 15s, 16s. He really helped me nail those fundamentals. And then I obviously had Anthony Clark as well. So he's part of the New South Wales coaching staff at the moment. He was a key mentor of mine. I had the chance of playing with him at Fairfield, Liverpool as well, growing up. And yeah, he really helped in terms of keeping the game simple and develop my bowling aspects aside as well. So yeah, those were, I think, the three main coaches growing up: Gordon, Anthony, and Neil.
That's amazing. And on top of that, you're also a bowler as well. So what did you do more as you were growing up? Were you more of a batsman or a bowler?
So funny enough, I actually used to bowl medium pace growing up. So at the age of probably 13, 14, and then I did my side and I made the best move of trying to bowl spin. I think I'm I guess 5'10", 5'11", so I don't think fast bowling was suitable for me. Um, I had the chance to actually net bowl to the Thunder at a pretty young age, bowling to the likes of like Shane Watson, Andre Russell as well. So just honing your skill, trying to bowl to those guys and trying to find a way what works really helped develop my aspect, my bowling. Yeah, I think off spin's not that easy. That mentality of okay, like you can get targeted pretty quickly in especially white ball cricket. So just finding a way what works, and I think you guys see guys like obviously Chris Green doing really well and Sunil Narayan around the world, like they excel at what they do. So just trying to learn off that.
So what age were you? You said you were bowling to Shane Watson, Andre Russell. What age was that?
So I was bowling at the age of probably 17. I think I was a rookie early on in my career at the age of 17, 18. So just bowling to them, net bowling as much as I can, and just learning from them.
I've heard like many players, up and coming players, are like a rookie Thunder player. So how does that process work? Like, do you have to? I think it's like a competition that you have to score the most runs or something to that effect.
No, I'm not too sure how it works now. I'm not. This was a long time ago, so I'm not sure how it works anymore. It was just like obviously up and coming cricketers at a young age, 16, 17. There used to be these academy games, like Sydney Thunder used to have an academy. Sixers did, Hurricanes. We used to get international academies, and they used to have like a T20 competition. And if you, I guess, perform well or show any sign of potential, I think you were rewarded well. And yeah, trying to at a pretty young age, I try to bowl as much as I can to like the guys that were playing at that level or even international cricketers. I think that's the best place to learn, and you get a pretty good feedback as well.
And bowling to such superstars at such a young age must have made you feel certain. Like, what was going through your mind? Like, did you feel like, yes, I can do it? Did you push yourself? Did you have the self belief, or did you feel like you were essentially, doubting yourself because I'm sure like you drop it short a little bit, and sometimes a 16, 17-year-old spin bowler
Yeah,
can be very difficult. So then they absolutely punish you, and you just feel like, oh, like it's a bit of a kick to the gut.
yeah, for sure. No, I definitely get that. I remember one year we were doing centre wicket bowling to guys like Shane Watson and Carlos Brathwaite. So guys that obviously hit the ball pretty far. And it was like a group of myself, Chris Green, and I think Monty Panissa was actually there as well. And it was just power hitting. And I reckon we bowled probably 70 to 80 balls, and I reckon two balls didn't actually go into the crowd. So just that feedback in terms of, okay, like it's all right, like it's going to happen, but trying to find a way what works is more important. And then not being shy, like I guess you're not that naive at a young age. You want to learn as much as you can. You have these chats with guys like I mentioned. Fawad Ahmed was really good in that aspect as well, just trying to learn off him. Um, and he's been world class for a long period of time in the Big Bash. So just finding ways what works. I guess reading batters as well. Like I guess some batters use their feet a lot better. So trying to find a way that works that end. Some people stay in their crease. So yeah, just like adapting on the go as well, like trying to understand the batter and seeing what works. I think that skill is really important. Yeah,
So that's interesting because you mentioned a lot of names, a lot of spinners. So Monty Panesar, you mentioned Chris Green as well. and what was the other one you just mentioned as
Forward
well?
Ahmed, yeah, Forward
Fawad
Ahmed.
Ahmed, that's it. So, it's a lot of wealth of experience there. I think they're obviously a lot younger. Like Chris Green would have been pretty young as well. But what did you learn from, apart from what you just mentioned, adjusting to the batsman, all that kind of stuff? Like, what other tweaks do you feel like really helped you as a bowler by, kind of collaborating and talking to the other spin bowlers around your squad?
Yeah, I think um, sometimes, like in T20 cricket, you don't want to be too predictable as well. I know red ball cricket is completely different in terms of consistency and repeatability. But I guess in T20 cricket, having that edge of having variety, I think is a pretty big part in what we do as spinners as well. Being an off spinner, like we don't have that wrong end or we don't have that slider or a flipper and all that sort of stuff. So trying to change your angles is really important over and around. Using the crease, I think is it's like it hasn't been like talked about enough. I think that's very important in terms of even like a slight change of an angle can make a massive difference. I think of it as a batter, like over and around, like you got to completely change your game where you want to hit, what pockets you want to target. Like it makes a big difference. So in T20 cricket, just because it's going at such a fast pace, trying to slow down and be like, all right, I can change a small tweak and it can make a big difference at the other end.
Yeah, that's amazing because we know even as batsmen, even those power hitting batsmen, always when it comes to the subtle variations as an off spinner,
Yeah,
all it takes is that little bit of adjustment, like using the crease, and it can just slide under the bat or go past the bat, even after they played a big shot. Because sometimes the delivery might look the same, the way it's delivered, or the length of the ball might look the same, but it's just the angles and working the angles might make that big difference. So that's
yeah, for
that's
sure.
yeah, definitely crucial. And on top of that, like on the batting front as well, like being a Thunder player, I think you'd say you were primarily a batsman at the time as well. And then you're seeing all these players like Shane Watson, Carlos Brathwaite, etc. Like, what did you pick up from their batting, and what did you like tweak at the time when you're working with these players to try to become the best batsman you could be at that age?
Yeah, like I was pretty young at that age, so I was just trying to soak it all in. Guys like Shane Watson going hard, Russell hitting balls out of the ground. So I think the key thing I learned was not trying to change my game too much, like making sure understanding what my game was. Like I'm probably more of a middle order batter that bats 3 and 4, understanding my role in the game, like whether it's run hard between the wickets and finding that odd boundary, and then knowing what my zones are. I'm probably someone, I guess, that doesn't hit the ball as far as like say Water or Russell, but then ramping, finding different pockets. I mentioned running hard, like finding ways to tick the board over. I think that's important as well. And yeah, like staying calm out there as well. I think we get hyped up about it's T20 cricket, the game's moving really fast. So I think the importance of understanding the situation, slowing the game down, seeing what's required of me at that stage is pretty important as well.
Whilst we're on the topic of players that you've interacted with, I've read as well that you're in the IPL for Punjab Kings squad as a train on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go over there. My coach in Tassie actually was a bowling coach for Tasmania. Was a bowling coach for Punjab Kings in the IPL for that one year, Damien Wright. So I was lucky enough to go over there, I guess, be a trainer on, bowl to the squad as much as I could, um, bat wherever I get the chance. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience, I guess, training with the guys like Shikhar Dhawan, Liam Livingston, these guys, just seeing what they did day in, day out. Seeing what made them tick, how they prepared for the IPL, probably the pinnacle of T20 cricket going around in terms of franchise cricket, was amazing. Just seeing how they operated. Yeah, that was a phenomenal experience for the 2 3 weeks I was there.
Yeah, I can imagine. I might ask a few questions in specifically like regarding when you're training with these sort of players, and I assume you're more bowling than you were batting
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
time.
for sure. I was just bowling most sessions. You could say as like a net bowler train on. So yeah.
And who did you bowl the most to, and I guess what learnings did you take from those sessions?
Yeah, I bowled a lot to Jonny Bairstow actually, and then bowled a fair bit to Shikhar as well and Mayank Agrawal. So those were the three guys and it just showed like guys who are at the peak of their games. They trained harder than anyone. They put in the hours. They put in the work, and it showed at the end of the day. They're probably the most consistent in that squad. Um, and finding what works. I had a pretty good chat in terms of Jonny Bairstow. Okay, some deliveries would work for key batters, other deliveries wouldn't work. So just finding like I mentioned, reading the batter, see what makes them tick, see where their strengths are, and finding a way to, I guess, bowl to them and getting them off strike. Because T20 cricket, if a person's going hard, the best thing is giving them a one. So just finding a way to actually get them off strike sometimes is more crucial than, I guess, taking that breakthrough.
And what player who may not be necessarily a big namer
Mhm.
that you bowled to had surprised you quite a bit in terms of how good he is? Because I can imagine, like in India, there's so many players. Like even look at the domestic games, like it's players averaging 40 and 50, but you don't really
Yeah.
hear their name as much. So who surprised you the most?
There were two guys at that time. He obviously wasn't a big name, but now he's in like Indian squads. Jitesh Sharma, I think he's in a lot of their T20 squads now, but he was like small stature, but he hit the ball miles. Like he had that power, and he probably batted it in the middle order at the back end, where it's probably I think the hardest time to bat in terms of finishing off games. I thought he was very impressive in the way he went about it, and just his brute force to clear the fence up at any point. I thought he was really impressive.
And at the time, it would have been Anil Kumble, right, who was
Yeah.
the coach. And so, because he's a world class, legendary spinner in India, did you get a chance to get advice from him as well?
Yeah, for sure. I was lucky enough to pick his brains. Yeah, he gave a few technical tweaks, few different deliveries to add to, I guess, my arsenal as well. In terms of, I guess, as being an off spinner, sometimes you want to be able to take the ball away from the right hander. So just learning those crafts, learning that skill, and still practicing it till today. So keeping that in mind, that was an amazing experience just to get those tips from him. I guess you could say that Karen ball was a massive part in the way he taught me. Um, and yeah, I think being the coach of, I guess, an IPL setup, I learned a lot in terms of being able to manage expectations and managing players as well. They're obviously very good players in their own right, but just being able to, okay, having a conversation, seeing what people, how it makes other people tick, that was really important as well. Because everyone has their own personality. So I think the way you interact with people, seeing what works for them was very important.
And on top of that, you got an opportunity to bat. And what sort of bowlers did you face? Because I think Kagisa Rabada was in the squad, right? Did you get a
Yeah,
chance to face him or anything?
I didn't get the chance to actually face the quicks. I worked with the batting coach. It was actually Julian Wood at that time, so he specialises in power hitting, and that was amazing. Just that it was a completely different aspect of looking at power hitting. He comes from a baseball background with weighted balls and weighted bats, so his basically big analogy was improving bat speed, bat velocity, and bat plane, like the plane of your swing. And that was remarkable. Just we had guys like Odean Smith and Liam Livingston, guys that hit the ball miles, just doing their work, going with Julian, having that hit. And it was completely different because I hadn't seen it in terms of weighted balls and weighted bat. Like we've always been in just trying to hit bulk balls, improve your swing, that aspect. So just seeing a completely different aspect in things and using that weighted bat and ball and the way that improved your bat swing and bat speed, more importantly, was pretty cool.
I had a few guests actually mentioned they've worked with Julian Woods. So
Yeah.
at the time, that this would have been a fair few years ago. He wasn't necessarily like a big namer because I think he's really become a lot more famous in the last 2 years or so. So it
Yeah.
was interesting. He's been in the IPL working, 5 years ago or so as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah, I think it was 21, 22, and yeah, he was obviously starting out. He's a big name in the UK, but yeah, a lot of guys have worked with him and seen the rewards. So it was pretty cool to work with him.
That's amazing. I can imagine like it's also lifelong memories having all these, star players that were you also at the games, like, when they're playing each other, I don't know,
Yeah,
Kings
so we weren't actually in the
versus
dugout, but we were, I guess, up at the top of the stand with the squad, the rest of the squad. So yeah, it was cricket over there is completely different. Yeah, amazing
uh,
experience.
yeah, I can imagine. So that would have been special memories for yourself. I might jump to kind of going a little chronological regarding your own experiences playing.
Yeah,
And we might start a bit early because you'd also played in the under 15 national championships.
yeah,
So I think you probably were 14, if I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
mistaken.
That's a good throwback. Yeah, down in Canberra, I remember that fondly.
And you also played along the alongside the likes of Ryan Hackney and Matthew Gilkes, so some names there who played for New South Wales. So how was it like at the time, like playing with these bunch of players? And you also so you played one game against Western Australia and scored 84 of 104 against the likes of Aaron Hardy and Cameron Green. So you actually played him quite a few times since a young age. So how
Yeah,
was that experience like, and do you remember those games?
yeah. Like obviously being at that age, it was just excitement getting the chance to represent your state. You mentioned Hackney and Gilkes. Hackers is probably one of my closest friends till date. So I guess you build that found relationships and those memories at a pretty young age. So it was an amazing experience. I think we ended up winning by a couple of runs as well. So yeah, it was a really good tournament. Remember it fondly. You mentioned playing guys like Aaron Hardy and Cameron Green, like they stood out at a young age. They were gun all rounders. We actually had the chance to tour Sri Lanka as an Aussie team as well later on in the year. So just being around them, Greeny, Hardy, and then Gilkesy, and there was another guy, Matthew Spores, on that tour as well, who's done really well. I think he's scored 100 for Canada in the T20s internationally. So yeah, there was a lot of decent players on that tour. But yeah, just you could tell they were cut from a different cloth at a young age. Like they excelled at what they did. So
And what was exactly you observed that makes you say that they were cut from a different cloth? Were they like, for example, I see a lot of high level batsmen or bowl. For example, as a batsman, like I remember Steve Smith would make note, like if a batsman has time or it looks like they have time, then they're a bit different. So what specifically did you observe with these kind of players that made them stand out?
I think, firstly, with Jukes, he obviously has that free flowing nature. Every time I've seen him bat, he's performed extremely well. I actually had the chance to play second level with him last week, and he scored 150. So it's just like junior days. He hasn't stopped scoring runs. He has that free flowing, like you mentioned, a lot of time on his hands as well. And being at lefty is just nice and elegant as well. With Greeny at that age, he bowled probably quicker than anyone at that age group. I remember him and another bowler, Chugnowski, so they were pretty impressive at that young age. And Aaron, I think, was their skipper. So I think he just gave off those leadership qualities. He bowled well, he batted well, he actually performed well in that tournament as well. So those were the guys that stood out, I think, and that's why.
What's interesting as well for yourself, you played under 17 championships the following year and the year after. So I think twice perhaps you played under 17 in the season
Yeah.
2015 2016.
Mhm.
So knowing that you've played under 15s and now you're playing under 17s, how did you feel as a youngster? Because I can imagine as a youngster playing this kind of high level competitive cricket gave you a lot of confidence, or did you feel like you always had to step up? Like, was there pressure on you to keep scoring? Because obviously for yourself, I can imagine being a subcontinent background as
Mhm.
well might stick out like a sore thumb at times. So maybe there's more pressure on you to score. So what was the experiences like being a kid, but also playing this high level cricket and trying to be the best you can be at that age?
Yeah, you mentioned like the first couple of years is probably just enjoying it, taking as much as I can. I was probably pretty young, I think 15, 16 in that first year. So just being a part of a pretty solid group. I remember when I was in the bottom age, we won down in Tassie um, on the last day of the tournament, back when red ball cricket was part of the tournament. So I thought that was an amazing experience. But yeah, you did mention in my top year there was a bit more pressure. I'll probably put it on myself. Trying to think, oh, okay, I've got to perform. New South Wales is a premier state, so you want to be the best from the get go. And being skipper, you want to lead from the front as well. In hindsight, I probably didn't have as good of a tournament with the bat as I would have liked, but yeah, pretty grateful for that opportunity. Winning one out of the two was amazing, and then losing in that final for our final hurt, but we were outdone by a pretty good batter on that day.
On top of that, I might like touch on your background, like being the subcontinent, like you mentioned, your dad immigrated from India to Australia,
Yeah.
and essentially we know the sort of immigrant struggle in the sense that we're always pushed to study hard, and and I can imagine you yourself, like, were you told by your parents to be studying hard and working hard, but then also be training cricket? Because obviously balancing the two at that age would have been pretty difficult.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head there. Academic wise, it was very important growing up. But I'm lucky enough that they supported me in both aspects of, I guess, of life in terms of academics and sport. I never felt like that was pushed into either direction or I had to give up one aspect to fulfill another one. Yeah, I trained hard, worked hard, and then studied pretty hard as well. So I had fortunate enough to go to a pretty good school and then work my way through and till date still completing my degree. So yeah, the importance is still there. Lucky enough, they instilled that in me. Okay, you want to enjoy your sport, but then academically you got to work hard as well. So yeah, but I still owe a lot to them in that aspect of. You did mention sometimes our the background we're forced to, I guess, give up sporting ambitions just to study hard, but in my aspect, it wasn't there. Like I was lucky enough to do both. And you did mention you got to balance it, but I guess at a young age, you're young, you can do both things full throttle. You don't really have much of a social life at that age anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, study hard, play hard.
It's amazing. So I know even many guests that I've had that are of subcontinent background, like that, very similar kind of
Mhm.
struggle in that sense. But thankfully, it's good to hear. Parents always supportive in that sense because I've seen, from my personal experience, like many other kids, like either yeah, like you mentioned, they are forced to give up sport because it's not seen as a viable career option, which is like I guess they're trying to be practical and try to look out for their kids, so they have the best of intentions. Alongside that, however, I've also seen many parents that go way too hard, expect their kids to be Virat Kohlis and Rohit Sharmas, and
Yeah,
then the training becomes so intense that they become so scarred and traumatized from cricket that they never want to play cricket
yeah.
ever again. So
I
it's
think
like one end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
but
I think exactly right. I think balance is important. Sometimes it can actually help. Like for instance, if you're going through a tough form, you don't actually have to worry about it if you're thinking about your school exams. Let's be honest. Like I think the importance of having both and having a balance is really important because if you put too much time into one and you're thinking about it non-stop, and for instance, you probably don't have a great day in the field. It's important to switch off and take your mind off things. So I think that helped a lot growing up. Like I think like in year 10, 11, 12, it did really help. Taking your mind off things and I think just keeping that level head.
Yeah, definitely. And in season 2015-2016, when you played the under 17 championships, in the final, you played against Queensland against the likes of Max Bryant, Nathan McSweeney, and Xavier Bartlett. So do you recall that match? Because there's some, many stars that you have played against. And even like a month later in under 19s, you actually played under 19s in the same year, if I'm not
Yeah, so
mistaken.
I actually ended up playing for Northern Territory that year. But first, to touch on that game, yeah, I'll never forget it. Like it was probably that first loss that hurt. It was in the grand final under 17s. Like we put on a decent score, and I remember Nathan McSweeney, like he just batted unbelievably. Like he stood out. And yeah, like we knew of Max Bryant had that reputation, like he was a hard hitter. He could take the game away from any like at any point, but the way Nathan came out and batted that day was unbelievable.
And in the under 19 national championships,
Mhm.
you'd played in, you actually had a good run of form where you scored 75 of 98 against South Australia, 95 not out of 124 against Tasmania, and 52 of 92 against Queensland against the likes of Bryce Dree, Aryan Jane, and Matt Kuhneman. So, what did you feel right in that tournament to facilitate? Because you're playing under 17s and then you're playing under 19, so that must have felt like a jump in that sense as well for playing at a young age. You would have been like 16, I think,
Yeah,
17.
so I think 16, 17. So that was pretty cool. Like I said, you're naive at that age. You just want to enjoy it. Um, Probably put a lot more pressure on myself in that 17s tournament, and I didn't do as well. But 19s, I was lucky enough to play that tournament for NT. I missed out on that Aussie CA 11 team from 17. So I sort of thought, okay, I want to take this opportunity, do the best I can, and just really enjoy my cricket. I remember facing Wes Agar, and I was just like, how good is this? Like, this guy was bowling pretty quick wheels back then as well. And I was like, I'm just going to do the best I can and have that confidence in me to do well. And lucky enough, I remember we ended up beating South Australia. So that was a really big deal for us as an NT side. We beat him in the trial game, we beat him in the round game. So we were like, all right, we have a really good chance of going well in this tournament. So yeah, I still remember that to this day.
What's interesting, you said this a few times, you're putting pressure on yourself. Why do you feel like you were putting pressure on yourself in those particular tournaments, and what have you felt like you worked on to mitigate that?
Yeah, I think at a young age, you always want to do well. You want to get picked in all these teams. You want to be that main guy that scores all the runs, takes all the wickets. So, like, just sort of leveling out those expectations, really dumbing it down to just process related. I know I didn't mention this, but Bo Casson made a pretty major point in that point in terms of, okay, like, take the outcome out of it. It's all about that process. And I think that point really sticks with me till this day. And I've had coaches throughout my career echo that similar point in terms of, okay, trust that process and the result will look after itself. Because if you want, sometimes when you want it too bad, you don't get it. It's further away. And I've learned that over the years. I've worked with a guy called Alan Mantle in terms of the mental aspect of things. Really keeping it simple, working on that process, removing that, I guess, exterior noise, that expectation, or for instance, like you mentioned, selection, and just not worrying about that, and just enjoying the game, looking at that process, and doing what I can in that moment, staying in the present. That's really helped in the last, I guess, year and 12 to 18 months.
You mentioned elemental. What else did you feel like you've worked on from the psychological perspective to help you perform at your best?
One major part was managing those expectations. The second part was like having that routine. For instance, in terms of batting, like it's important to switch on and off. Sometimes I know at a young age we're like, all right, we're always trying to stay focused, trying to stay, I guess, at ball all the time, but it's important to switch off as well. Having that switch is really important. So I think having that, building that process, having like a routine, for instance, for me, that would be walking away, singing a song. Like I love being of my background, I love my Punjabi music. So like having that, it could be completely different. It could be anything. Picking out something in the crowd, just like not crowd in terms of the ground, whatever it is, just taking your mind off things. But then once you want to switch back on, for me, it's two taps, and I say to myself, balance and watch the ball. For me, balance means a lot of things, whether that's technically, mentally, tapping my bat twice, my trigger. It just encompasses a lot of those things. So for me, that works really well. And just having that and doing that day in, day out, not even day in, ball out, every time, like doing that repetitively, building that routine. So it helps me stay in the present. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I need to score these amount of runs, so I want to get selected, or I want to get picked next week, or I want to do this. That doesn't help in any aspect. Like I've been through that, and it's probably not the way to go. For me, it was sticking to that process, sticking to that routine, and just trusting that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And in terms of when the bowler is running in, and you said you say balance and watch the ball. At
Mhm.
what point are you like trying to watch the ball? Like, are you watching the whole ball? Are you watching the seam? And do you move your trigger movement accordingly? Like, how's your setup when it comes to watching the ball out of the point of release, out of the bowler's hand?
Yeah, so like with seam, I try to get as close as I can in terms of seeing the seam, especially with the new ball, like being a top order batter, it's important to see which way it's going, or I guess you have a feel for once you play multiple games and I guess the same guys, you know which way they're trying to move the ball. So it's important to do your work research. For me, watching the ball is like, okay, I want to see the seam, and especially if it's spin, I want to see it out of the hand. When you're relying off the wicket, I think it's too late in terms of that. But yeah, those were in terms of watching the ball. That's the key fundamentals for me. Seam.
And how do you balance, for example, playing a certain mode? So, for example, are you trying to just watch the ball and let everything flow through all periods of the game, or do you become a bit aggressive depending on which bowler it is or how they're bowling, or do you kind of start circumspect? And so, even though you're watching the ball, your mind might be telling you to hit the ball or smack
Yeah,
him around, but you're trying to reel it in. Like, what's that kind of approach as a batsman? Because it is difficult, right? Like, you
yeah.
feel like me, sometimes you need to go for this bowler, sometimes you need to reel it in, but then sometimes your mind's telling you something else, but then you're trying to stay present at the center. So there's a lot of information happening. So how
Yeah.
do you kind of go about it?
So in terms of like, for instance, when I'm going out to bat, I'll try to look at the scoreboard in terms of where we're at in terms of the game situation. But even regardless of that, still say we got a lot more time than we think. Sometimes, especially in T20 cricket, we feel rushed in terms of, okay, I don't know, 5 overs left. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do that. So there's so much like thought process going on, but trying to like slow yourself down and just go to the basics in terms of, okay, I want to get a feel for the wicket. I want to get a feel for what's going on. Like every game is different, regardless of if you've scored 100 previous game or a or a duck. Like you got to understand the situation, the conditions you're in. I think that's been a key focus the last, I guess, 12 to 18 months. Of right, okay, every game is different. Every pitch is different. Every scenario, bowlers are completely different. So just try not to go in with preconceived ideas and like playing it as it comes is important, and giving yourself time. I think I build my game off like even in T20 cricket, I build my game off defense in terms of okay, I want to be solid at the crease. I want to get off strike, find a way, and then you expand your game. I think red ball cricket, you obviously have a lot more time, so you can take your time in terms of building your innings. But even in T20 cricket, I remember some key advice I got was, okay, whatever over you go in, that's how many overs you should take to get yourself in terms of, all right, you've got that time. For instance, you got 5 overs left. At least give yourself 3 to 4 balls to get into the game. I think that's really important. Sometimes we get rushed into the situation rather than getting yourself set.
Yeah, definitely that makes sense. And you mentioned rotating strike.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of, it can be sometimes very difficult where you come into bat, you want to obviously get off strike, but then the fielders are in close.
Yeah.
Your mental approach then, because some people in that situation might get frustrated and feel like they have to hit over the top. Maybe that is the solution to the problem. And then at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, you're obviously trying to get a feel for the wicket, so you don't want to bog down and
Yeah.
play. Maybe you can because you know that later on you'll catch up because you got more time
Yeah.
and you think like you articulate. So what's your sort of approach in that game scenario specifically?
That's now the nail on the head in terms of, okay, you got a lot more time, and I feel like you can catch up as well, like especially with the grounds we play at. Even if you go through, there's a bowler going through a good spell, you got to find a way to get through it, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to just hit out and get out, you're going to be sitting on the sidelines and then complaining later on in terms of, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. So I think staying in the present of being like, okay, you got to respect the situation you're in terms of, okay, the bowler's bowling well, the ball's nipping around, that aspect of things, and just slow it down in terms of, okay, find a way to get through this and I can cash in later on. Because you're right in terms of, you can't just come out all guns blazing in the beginning, like be 30 or 15 balls. That can happen, but majority of the times it doesn't. So finding a way to get through that initial period, especially when the ball's new, and get through that in terms of, okay, for me it would be just like in terms of watching the ball, staying balanced, finding a way to get off strike. If I'm getting built under pressure, that's fine. Have a chat with the bloke at the other end, build that relationship. All right, where can I get a single, where can I get off strike? And that really helps in terms of flow, and you're not thinking about external things, you're just thinking about what's going on at that present moment.
And how about that kind of, some players might have that flick of the switch where, okay, they feel set, they got a
Mhm.
feel for the wicket, maybe they're getting singles here and there, and I feel like, yes, I can kind of shift the moment a little bit. Do you
Yeah.
have that moment? And if you do, like, what sort of shots do you play in order to, kind of sway the momentum in your direction?
Yeah, I think in terms of that, it depends on the situation and matchup of bowler. I think that's very important. Like, and understanding that with your partner is important as well, whether it be left and right, or you understand your partner's strengths in terms of playing square of the wicket or down the ground. So I think matchup is key. Once you set, especially in one day cricket, I think it's important to move the game on, right? So, yeah, especially to spin, hitting down the ground, taking on the boundary. And I think, lucky enough, I play at Coogee Oval, so it's pretty small straight. So I think that's the best way to go in terms of targeting straight down the ground.
And in terms of facing specific bowlers, when
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to move the game along,
Mm-hmm.
what are you looking for? Like, because a lot of people kind of bank on the cow corner shot, for example,
Yeah,
or playing the lofted shot. Are you trying to target specifically, certain areas of the ground, like you just mentioned, like down the ground, or are
yeah,
you just playing to the ball? Because sometimes it can be almost like a trade off where you're trying to stay present in the moment and try to play to the ball. So, for example, you're watching the ball really closely, he's bowling a
mhm,
bit fuller, and you're trying to just play with a straight bat. But then
yeah,
maybe the fielders are parked, deep
yeah,
long on, deep, long off. Whereas perhaps there is a little gap on the onside, you might be looking to turn it instead. So sometimes staying present, obviously, can maybe not allow you to play the best shot accordance with the field positions, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So
yeah. Like, I
in that
think
situation, what do you do?
you mentioned it well in terms of, like, sometimes you do need to premeditate. Like, I think the ramp is a key example of that in terms of both reverse and normal. You can park up guys straight down the ground, but being able to, I guess, open up that aspect, like cricket's 360, so you got to find a way to get off strike and find your boundary option. Um, in that aspect, yeah, it is premeditated, and you got to, I guess, find when's the right time to use it. For instance, like you mentioned, guys trying to hit the block hole. I think that's a great way to employ and get off strike, or even score runs. Yeah, I think it comes down to just in terms of understanding the situation, seeing what the bowler's trying to do as well, because you can tend to have a pretty good idea in terms of where their field set, where they're trying to go. So trying to find a way to score is the best way to go in terms of that.
And what's your take as well on like when you're watching the ball, people play with the full face of the bat, and let's just
Yeah.
say it's early on in the innings and there's fielders up.
Mm.
Sometimes that may not be the solution in terms of getting off strike, and people
Yeah.
talk about maybe using that angles or playing as late, where they
Yeah.
can kind of nurtle it towards maybe like third man region,
Yeah.
or have those kind of like people talk about Joe Root and the way he
Yeah.
gets off strike. How do you balance that? Because sometimes that can be seen as a bit like higher risk, especially early on in the innings. Like
Yeah.
the safety, I would assume, is trying to play with the full face of the bat, but when you start playing with the angles, you're playing with less of the face of the bat.
Less to the
So,
face
is
about.
there a
Yeah, for
period?
sure. But I think that that's a risk you take. It might not. It might be a risk for certain batters, but for other batters, it works really well. Like you mentioned, Joe Root and I think Cam Williamson, two of the guys that play the ball so late and so well through third man. They rotate the strike so well. But then you got the other side of things of people that crab across the crease and hit through square leg mid wicket. Because like I guess in white ball cricket, you typically have most of the guys on the offside early on. So finding a way to, I guess, deflect is important. Um, and I think even in red ball cricket, I think it's important because you guys have guys that bowl channel 9 out of 10 times for third, fourth, fifth stump. Finding a way to get off strike sometimes is important as well, like crabbing across. And I think practicing that is important as well. I know one of the coaches actually mentioned that to us of like finding a way to score. I know Billy Stanlake was playing last week, someone that actually bowls pretty decent wheels and hits the top of the stumps. So finding a way to get off strike to him was really important, and that way worked a lot better in terms of crabbing across and hitting through square leg. Whereas using that third man analogy probably doesn't work as much in red ball cricket. So I think having that balance and then finding a way what works and what's suited to your game is important. But yeah, training and working hard at it is important, very important as well.
In terms of gameplay, because you mentioned different formats, does it change that strategy side in terms of becoming more accustomed at the crease and trying to score and finding ways to score? Like, does that approach change depending on the format you play? Because obviously, people will think playing T20s, you kind of have to get off strike and
Yeah.
try to hit big earlier. Like for yourself and from a
Mhm.
personal standpoint, do you try to keep the same, relatively same template in all formats, or do you tweak it a lot depending on the format?
Yes, I think I keep it similar in terms of you could say blueprint, but in T20 cricket, obviously you work at a quicker pace. So like get yourself in and then picking your match up. I think targeting spin for me personally is a big part of my game at the moment in terms of T20 cricket, and then picking your spots in terms of whichever quicks are on. In one day cricket, yeah, you get yourself in. I think power play is key. The way cricket's going, you want to take advantage of that first 10 over power play. So we have a lot of guys that go hard. And then during that middle over phase, like running hard, playing spin, rotating strike, going above 5, 6 and over, just building that innings through that middle phase. I think that's really important in terms of the way I think about the game. And then being there at the end. Like if you're as a top four batter, if you're in the 40th over, you can genuinely score 100 plus in that last 10. Just being there, and I think that's the blueprint I go by. In T20 cricket, it's a bit different. Like I was fortunate enough to the surge has helped me a lot in terms of even in grade cricket or like having that surge. It really helps those middle order batters get set and then use those. I guess only two fielders out to their full advantage. In typically 6 over power play, openers are love and life. Like they can use and make the most of it. But then the 2 over surges really help, like us middle order batters as well, like score at a pretty quick rate. So I think that's really helped.
I might shift to asking about like in the 2015-2016 season when you did play the under 19
Mhm.
championships, you also played first grade. So
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on like what it was like. You're playing one game against,
Mhm.
older blokes, and then you're also playing age group cricket for
Yeah.
your state. So what was that transition like? Did you feel like it was a big difference, a big jump, and how did you adjust to it?
Yeah. Like it is completely different. Like I guess in grade cricket, especially back in that day, I think it was a very mental game. You had a lot of older guys who played the game for a long period of time. They figured out your game pretty quick. They obviously old school sledging as well came into it as well. So I think just being mentally resilient, mentally like switched on and tough in that aspect was really important. It doesn't really happen a lot in underage cricket. I think just because of it's white ball cricket, it's played at a pretty quick pace. But in grade cricket, like it was a pretty mental test. I probably didn't. do as well initially, but then just finding a way to remove that external noise and just worry about what's going on in my game and just playing that way, I think makes a big difference.
And what made you realize at that time, because you're still pretty young, like made you realize that that sledging might be affecting your
Yeah.
performances, and what did you put in place to block out the external noise?
Yeah, I mentioned I played with Anthony Clark, so he obviously had a few ways to counteract that in terms of either you go hard and you can go hard back at him and voice your opinion and try to back it up with your chat and with the bat, or just completely ignoring him and not worrying about it at all. Yeah, I think it works. What works for you is important. Like sometimes I stay completely quiet. Other games I say something back. So I think it depends on the situation as well and what works for you at the end of the day. Yeah, early on, finding a way to remove that noise, I probably wasn't as good as it, and I probably let it affect me a little bit as well. And yeah, and it showed. So yeah, finding a way to not let that affect you, I think is the best way moving forward, especially for a young kid coming through the grade scene.
Yeah, I can imagine because as a young cricketer, you wouldn't have had that experience before, and then you're suddenly kind of thrusted into that situation. You have to deal with it, so it's definitely a huge adjustment. I can imagine for any young cricketer going and playing a great cricket at a young age.
Yeah,
And in
it's a level above as well, right? Like you got to be a lot more patient, and you got to be work harder for your runs. Especially like these guys are veteran, like experienced cricketers. They know they know the conditions. They've probably played great cricket for the last 5 to 10 years. They know how everyone works in terms of where they score and all that sort of stuff. So you got to be resilient and be consistent for longer. I think that was a big difference.
in the season 2016-2017, you actually got selected for the under-19 Australia team to play
Yeah.
Sri Lanka. So when you found out that you got picked, how was the emotions like? How did your family feel? So walk us through that period when you found out you're playing, going
Yeah,
to
it's like
represent Australia.
it was it was it was thrilling. Like it was an amazing experience just getting that call. It was funny enough. I was actually at my driver's license test when I got that call, so it was two good news at the same time. Luckily, I did pass, but yeah, I finally remember that call. Yeah, just amazing to be a part of. Obviously, any chance you get to represent your country, you're thrilled, you're proud, honoured. Parents obviously over the moon. And yeah, that was an amazing experience, especially that series down in Hobart, and then obviously the World Cup the year after. So, yeah, fond memories of that period.
I mean, I hope you didn't pick up your phone as you're doing the driver's test
Yeah,
and
no, no, no,
fail on the spot.
definitely after, definitely after. I was more worried about the test actually. So, but no, I got good news in both aspects.
That's amazing. And on top of that, you're playing alongside the likes of Jason Sanger, Jack Edwards, Will
Yeah,
Sutherland. So you would have played against them or with them in the lead up to that World Cup. So there would have been some familiar faces for that under-19 series. So how's that like knowing that you're going to play against and play with, sorry, all these kind of players you've grown up with?
yeah. So like you mentioned, you played a lot. I played 15s, 17s, 19s, a lot of these guys. So you built a good relationship with them. Still pretty close with a lot of these players. Sang's obviously moved to States and he's done extremely well the past 12 months, and we still stay in touch. So, yeah, just it was an amazing experience. We obviously did well down in Hobart and pretty well in the World Cup. So, they're pretty fond memories, and you still stay in touch. So, yeah,
And in that series as well, you played against the likes of Kamindo Mendes, and you're
yeah,
on top of that in the second game. You scored a century, so 111 of 120 balls. So walk us through
yeah,
that period, because I can imagine when you scored those runs, that would have been a huge boost to your confidence. Especially being a youngster in your first series in under
yeah.
19. On top of that, did you hear of Kamindo Mendes at the time? Because he's
Yeah,
known as a
we
prolific
definitely
run
did.
scorer. Yeah.
We definitely did. Like he obviously bowled with both arms as well. So he had the ability to bowl off spin with both arms. So that was pretty cool. And you can see now like he's playing international cricket and he's done really well. So just playing him at a young age was pretty cool. Um, yeah, I remember that 100 pretty well. I missed out in the red ball games initially, so I was pretty disappointed in that aspect. But then trained pretty hard, worked with our coach, Matty Elliott. Worked hard on my, I guess, defense and, like I mentioned, building your game around your defense and then expanding that way. And yeah, luckily enough, I was able to get that 100, and yeah, it was a fun memory to have. I guess scoring 100 for your country at any level was massive.
And in the next season, 2017, 2018, there was actually quite a lot that happened that year. Must have been a big year for you. Like, I think the first one was you were part of the national performance squad against,
Yeah.
alongside the likes of Josh Inglis, Labuschagne, Ben McDermott, and Brendan Dockett. So, walk us through, like, what was that national performance squad and what sort of trainings did you do with these players and what was that experience like?
Yeah, so lucky enough, I was part of that. I guess national squad. We were up in Brisbane, up at the NCC for I guess 3 to 4 months. But at a young age, you're basically living the life of a pro cricketer, day in day out. Your routine training, 4 to 5 times a week, getting your recovery, all that sort of stuff. So that was new to me, and just learning from those guys, like you mentioned, guys like Marnus, Alex Carey was there as well, Ben McDermott, all these guys that were playing at the state level at that time anyway. So just seeing how they went about their preparation, and how bad they wanted it. Like they grinded seriously hard for what they wanted to achieve. So having that routine, staying consistent, staying in that present, and just learning that aspect of things from them was really, really, really cool. I remember
And
actually,
not
funny enough, I remember we did a boot camp in country New South Wales. So just getting put through our paces by the Secret Service. I think that's the head who was looking after our boot camp and just doing that day in day out. Tough work. I guess getting in the trenches literally with them was pretty cool.
and that must have built a lot of mateship in that situation, being in the trenches.
Yeah, for sure. Like seeing your mate go through like tough work and grinding through that period, you obviously build that relationship, respect, and you admire him in that aspect as well. So just building that, I guess, camaraderie for the whole squad was really cool, and that shows on the cricket field at the end of the day as well. Like you want to do the best for the team. You want your teammate to have as much success as possible. And at the end of the day, we want to win games. So it's a team sport. We want to win comps. We want to win games. We want to win championships. So I think that's a major part in it.
Yeah, like I think sometimes, obviously, everyone wants to do well from an individual perspective, but it's super important being a team sport. Like you have that camaraderie, you have that energy, and you back each other so that you all feel good and feel energized and feel pumped to do well for each other, and that
Yeah,
just helps with the performances.
yeah, for sure. At the end of the day, it's a team game. So you want the best for the team. You want that success.
Yeah, definitely. And not too long after as well, you played. So you were obviously last this previous season. You played in the under 19 Australia team, and then now you're also playing in the Marsh One Day Cup for Cricket Australia 11. So that was an interesting kind of situation at the time because it was a newly added team,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of talk around it. So what was your experience like, and being part of the team and training with you're playing alongside Max Bryant, Bo Webster, and you're versing all the state teams. So what was
Yeah.
that like?
Yeah, we were just, I guess, grateful for that opportunity. We were on the fringe of, I guess, all of our state squad. So just to put a team together and actually compete in that competition was really good. It gave us a good, I guess, idea of where we stood in terms of state cricket and like going up against guys like you mentioned, Carey, Weatherald, even I remember Renshaw and Marnus were playing as well. And then facing our own home state, like I remember facing Dougie Bollinger, and there was yeah, it was a tough contest. So just testing ourselves against the best at that point was really good for our own development as well. So I think that was a really good concept.
Was there anyone at the time that you learned the most from, and in what way did you feel like you grew as a cricketer? Like, because as you mentioned, you've played against such quality cricketers at that time, and playing that competitive. And I'm sure, like, even like you got a win against South Australia, who
Yeah,
had Alex Carey, Weatherald, Callum Ferguson, which was a gun at the time as well. So
yeah,
many.
sure.
That must have been a memorable win as well against a strong team.
Yeah, I remember actually. I think it was Bo Webster and Cam Valenti that got that 100, and just to see them perform at that level at that young age was I guess built that confidence for us as a team and personally. Just to know that if we just trust our game and go out and perform at that level, it can put us in really good stead. So I think that was a really good learning curve for me. Like I don't think I performed too well, like with a couple of starts against I think Tassie, but yeah, just to have that opportunity to play against them to see what was required at that level, I think was a really good learning curve for me.
And I know, like, we've gone through a decent amount of
Mhm.
tournaments and competitions that you've been a part of, and high level cricket. At
Mhm.
what point did you feel like there was a big step up? Like, was it because you're always playing against such quality players, even from a younger age? Did you always feel kind of comfortable once you had to make a step up? Like, I can imagine under 19 World Cup, and now you're playing against, I guess, men in for their
Yeah.
state teams or against them. Like, did you feel like that was a step up where you had to keep adapting, or did you feel kind of comfortable because from a younger age you're already playing, first grade and playing against quality players already?
No, definitely. Like I felt there's a big step up from I guess from grade cricket to shield cricket. Just in terms of the quality of the players, the relentlessness, the consistency. Um, I still remember like I did experience that in terms of even shield cricket. I felt like okay, this is show. I was pretty young to get that opportunity and just to play against the guys like I remember Boland, Maxwell, Finch, Cameron White, all these guys that were at the peak of their powers at that point. So I did feel like that was a step up, and I had to find a way and probably learn that okay, you got to find a way that works in that slow down, not worry about okay all these big names, and just at the end of the day, it's bat v ball, and just try to get into that contest.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And as well, not long after you played in the under 19 World Cup in New Zealand. So when you found out you were going to play in that World Cup, what was that moment like for you and your family? And did you have like friends or family that kind of flew over to New Zealand to watch you? So what was that like?
Yeah, actually, that was before the Shield debut. Yeah, I think I put that out as a pretty big goal of mine. I guess playing age group cricket, especially as 17, 18, 19, like that's the pinnacle for age group cricket. So you always want to play at that level. I was thrilled. Um, we did well to make that final, but got that outdone by India in the end. But to play guys like I guess Shubman Gill, Harry Brook, Abhishek, Rachin Ravindra, all these guys that are performing well in the international cricket till this day, was an amazing experience.
Yeah, some really big names, like even for Afghanistan, you had Gurbaz, Ibrahim Zadran, even with the bowlers as well. I think Naveen ul Haq,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
recall
we
as
played
well.
them in the
So
quarterfinal.
some, yeah, some really gun players actually in that particular World Cup, and you had Harry Brook as well, who's killing it as well in international cricket. So did you hear like whispers about these kind of players at the time, and what did you
Yeah,
strategize?
you tend to, especially with the Indian side, because a lot of them were in the IPL auction, so like there was already pretty big hype around them. I remember their quicks bowled pretty quick, especially in that first round game we played them. So there was definitely hype around their players. Harry Brook was killing it. There was Tom Banton as well in that age group that was performing really well. Shaheen Shah Afridi for the Pakistan team was doing really well. So like you had all these names coming up, but we were just I was happy to be a part of it and perform the way I did. So yeah.
And what did you like? Because you got to the final as well. How did you find it in terms of pressure? Like, was there a lot of expectation upon you? And how did the team and yourself deal with it? Even though you may not have got the win that you wanted, but dealing with that in the lead up to that final, what was that experience like?
Yeah, it's lucky enough we played India in the round games as well, so we sort of had a feel for their team. In terms of pressure, like I thought we handled that pretty well. To get to that point, we had a few close games against England in that quarterfinal as well. So I think in terms of managing pressure, I thought we did that really well, and that stemmed from the top, like in terms of Ryan Harrison, Chris Rogers, just keeping us grounded, keeping us level. Managing those expectations of all right, we're playing a pretty good team, but we're here for a reason as well. So just trusting our ability, trusting our skill to go out there and do the job at the end of the day. That was a key message.
Yeah, definitely, that makes sense. And on top of that as well, like not long after, like you mentioned in passing, you made your Sheffield Shield debut. So there's a lot happening
Yeah.
in that year as well. So did you feel like a moment where you can kind of soak it all in, or were you just kind of rushing to one event to another event, playing this championship, playing the World Cup, and then Sheffield Shield? Like, it must have been a lot to do with you at that time as well.
Yeah, you probably reflect on these things, I guess, at the end of the season. But yeah, I was just taking it all in my stride, enjoying it as much as I can, gaining as much knowledge as I could, being around all these pros. I remember Ed Cowan was a key mentor of mine, especially when I was in the squad and playing in my first game. So just having him around, learning as much as I could from those guys, it was pretty cool. And then, like I mentioned, reflecting probably didn't happen until at the end of the season when it was all over. And yeah, just pretty grateful for the experiences I got.
And before I forget as well, I know that in terms of coaches, you'd worked with, from what I know, Phil Jaques and Chris Rogers, and Chris Rogers is currently the coach of
Yeah,
Victoria, and Phil Jaques as well. I think he's Sutherland coach, if I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
mistaken, right now. So, what learning did you take from them?
So when I was part of the squad, Phil Jaques was obviously the head coach. Yeah, he's a hard, tough trainer in terms of preparation. You the harder you work, the better you play. That was the analogy. Getting in, running in, getting all that sort of stuff in, training hard, and that the importance of preparation I really learnt from pro. Um, well, we called him pro. And then in terms of Buck Rogers, I had a trip with him to MRF actually, so I had the chance to go over to India with him. And in terms of just picking his brains in terms of mindset while batting, especially in the subcontinent, and like finding ways to score off spin, I think was really beneficial for me as well till this day.
So, what was the MRF trip? What is that? The MRF Academy or something?
Yeah, that was
In
the
India?
MRF Academy. So we did, I think, 2 to 3 weeks in Chennai. Basically, live, eat, breathe cricket in terms of playing in those conditions, finding ways to work, to score in that sort of situation. And yeah, that was an amazing experience in that.
And how do you get picked for that? Like, what did they do? Did you have other people go with you from Australia to the MRF Academy?
Yeah, so they tend to pick, I guess, 10 to 12 players. I think it was after that national performance squad. They picked a small squad to just go over there, obviously learn to play spin in those sort of conditions for future tours and stuff like that. So just yeah, I think it was just a CA pick squad.
And what adjustments as a batsman did you feel like you had to do after going through that experience? Because you're talking about, like, you're making reference to Indian conditions, and people will know that you have to, learn to play spin really well, and maneuver the ball, and run hard between wickets, all that sort of stuff. So did you feel like you had to make adjustments when you had that experience because of the conditions, and it might not be necessarily something that you're used to because you would have been playing mostly in, for example, New Zealand or Australia, obviously. So what was
Yeah,
that
I
like?
think adding those different shots to your arsenal as well was important. Like someone that didn't probably sweep as much growing up, I think adding that and learning that over there was really beneficial. And I think building that confidence and trust in it as well was really big. In terms of okay, knowing when to use these strokes, but actually backing yourself to use that in those situations as well. Um, I don't know. Sometimes we say sweeping's high risk, but for many players, it's their go-to shot. So I think finding a way that works and then using that in those sort of conditions was important.
Yeah, it makes sense. And speaking of India, in season 2018-2019, you
Mm.
actually versed India. I think it was for Cricket Australia 11, if I'm not mistaken, against superstars like Kohli, Rohit Sharma. So that must have been a really big moment for you, just having the opportunity to play against such superstars. Because even in that India team, like KL Rahul, Pujara, Prithvi Shaw, Vihari is very known as well.
Mhm.
Rishabh Pant, so Ashwin,
Yeah,
Mohammad Shami. So these are Jasprit Bumrah, like huge names, Jadeja
yeah.
as well. So
I think
having that opportunity, yeah.
yeah, that was an amazing opportunity just to see like guys you've watched growing up on TV just share the same field and see how they go about their business. I think it was a tour game before one of their main tests, so surprisingly they all actually played as well. So we was lucky enough to play all of them, face guys like Jadeja, Ashwin. I think Umesh Yadav was playing at that point as well. So yeah, I was in awe, like getting to watch. I think I might have mentioned it, like growing up, Virat was probably a major idol along with Ponting and Clark. So just to be able to watch him and see how he went about his business was amazing.
Yeah, and you didn't do it too bad as a team as well against them. So did
Yeah,
the team feel like, I don't know, like the aura and the occasion, everyone kind of, lifted in that situation because you're playing against such, top quality opposition. Some people like tend to, step up. So what was
yeah,
that like as a team?
yeah. Like obviously, I think it was the guys that weren't playing Shield cricket at that time, so it was a squad. Like I remember, Aaron Hardy did really well. I think he actually got Virat out, and there was a lot of hype around the media in terms of that. So just being able to manage that, and the boys took that in their stride. Like, it was amazing. I think we scored 400, 500 in that game, so we put on a pretty big total. And yeah, like I think it was just a really good experience for everyone to play like an international team in pretty good conditions. So yeah, I thought everyone enjoyed it, and still remember it to this day.
Did the Indian team speak Hindi and then you understood it and convey the secrets back to the team?
Yeah, that actually did happen in the under 19s. Like, lucky enough, I understand both of those, like Hindi and Punjabi, so I was able to understand what was going on and see what, and then convey that to my teammates as well. So it was pretty beneficial.
And did you get a chance to like talk and spend time with such players?
And no, unfortunately, we didn't at that point. I think it was just that 4 day game, and they got out of there pretty quick and to get to their next venue. So yeah, missed out on that.
Okay, fair enough. But I guess in that sense, what did you like watching them in person? Was there any nuances, like for example, that you observed with Kohli or Rohit Sharma in the way that they batted that you sort of picked up and learned from and tried to implement into your batting?
I think with Kohli was the intensity he played at. Like, for someone of such high stature in terms of superstar status and all that, like just for a tour game, the importance of, okay, this, like, take using that game for his neck, like the Test series, as like a, I don't know, not as a practice game, but like really know what was required in that situation, and like, okay, I can use this for my future test games. Like, not just saying, okay, I don't need to play this, but giving that importance to that game and being like, okay, operate at game like intensity, still take it as an important game for them. Like, for us, obviously, it was a major thing, but for them, they could have treated it like just like as a center wicket, but the way he went about it, the way I remember Morley VJ went about, like he scored 100, I think, in the second innings. Like, the seriousness they took of that game and treating every game as important was something I took out from them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I might actually jump to this season because even for
Yeah.
yourself, in first grade, you scored three consecutive centuries, and one of the centuries you hit 164th, 207, was a 301 run partnership with Eknor Singh. It was the highest partnership recorded by first grade and the first in excess of 300. So that must have been, a big moment for yourself, and must have, I know it made like in the news as well, and got shared a lot around Instagram,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, what did you feel you did right in that particular innings, and how did you go about your work that day?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned that before in terms of like understanding your partner at the other end. Like, at the end of the day, batting, there's only two of you out there. So building that partnership, having that relationship in terms of, okay, finding what works and what makes each other tick is important. Lucky enough, we spent a lot of time out there in previous games as well. So I've enjoyed batting with Eckers as well. And yeah, I think we just kept it simple. It was actually rain affected, so we only got, I think, 60 overs on day one. So um, just staying in the contest, like staying present, trying not to think too far ahead. We were batting first. I know there could be things like declaring and all that sort of stuff coming into play, but we just kept trying to kept it simple, enjoyed our time out there. Um, Found ways what works into different bowlers. I think we do that pretty well. Like, we have a pretty good understanding in terms of how to go about our innings, like both in terms of the conversations we have with each other out there. So I think that was important. And yeah, that just kept us present in the day, seeing ball, and yeah, I guess scoring, putting on 300 was pretty handy.
Yeah, and because people, obviously, many cricketers, and even in all levels, they aspire to, play long innings and play, score big runs as well. What do you think is the key to that? Do you think that it's just essentially at the heart of it, just patience and being watchful every ball and staying present, or is it also that plus essentially adapting to the situation, like you mentioned before about adjusting when it's not your time, then kind of hanging in there, and then when it is, you cash in, or do you just
Yeah.
always kind of keep it the same template? And like, do you have any other kind of psychological tools that help you to stay in and bat for as long as you can?
Yeah, I think you've mentioned it pretty well. The main blueprint stays the same in terms of routine. I think if we stick to that routine, the rest of the stuff you don't really tend to worry about in terms of, oh, we need to reach this total, that total, we need to score off this bowler, that sort of scenario, that sort of stuff takes care of itself. But for me, it's been in terms of, if I stick to what I need to do in terms of my own process, the rest will look after itself. And then it sort of builds and builds and builds, and then you sort of get into a flow of things as well. And then you can go in terms of, okay, I can pick up the run rate in this scenario, or I can target this bowler. That's when you start to think of those things as well. Thinking about that too early on can sort of, I guess, lead to your downfall, but you got to sort of stick to your routine, stick to that basics in terms, especially in red ball cricket. Like you got 96 overs in grade cricket, maybe more as well, depending on the situation. So just taking that ball by ball and really simplifying the game has been really important for me.
In what moment in the game do you feel that, like, for example, I know we talked about in the context of, batting and getting set, but in the context of if you are set, let's just say you're on, I don't know, 40 or 50 or 60 runs or so, and there's that moment where you feel like you can really take on this
Yeah.
bowler, like, what is it about that bowler and what reason, when it comes from a match scenario sense, would you want to target a certain bowler in that scenario?
Yeah, I think like once, especially for example, for a spinner, if you know their variations, you understand what they're trying to do in terms of their field placements and all that sort of stuff. I think, and then you find that switch of, okay, now I can really take this guy on and trusting yourself to do it. I think that's major because like we've all been part of this in situation where like you sort of second guess yourself. You'll be like, okay, if I do this, oh, this could happen, or if I do this, that can happen. So trying to not go too far ahead in terms of that thought process and just being like, okay, this is where I'm aiming to score. This is my matchup. This is where I want to score. If he goes there, this is where I'm going to score. Like having that sort of simple process is important rather than just saying, oh, if I do this and if I get out, or how am I going to look? All that sort of stuff. You can't really think of it that way, and that sort of holds you back. It doesn't. You can't really do it at 100, 110%, right? You're not backing that full thought process. You're sort of second guessing yourself. So I think one, having that plan, and two, trusting that plan is important. And that could be like it could only be for an over. At the end of the day, one over could go for 10, 15 runs in red ball cricket, 20 overs or 20 runs, and that can change the game. That could get the main bowler back onto bowl, someone that's it's pretty hot, get their main bowlers, get them for second, get them for third spells. I think that's the thought process and the tactical analysis of that.
So do you feel like the why I asked this question? It's actually what you touched on, like that whole aspect of second guessing yourself, and I think that's essentially a mental situation that all cricketers have to endure, where they feel like maybe logically from a mental perspective they've factored in that, yes, this bowler, like you mentioned, I know there's variations. I might have even trained with him from a young age. I know
Yeah.
everything he does,
Yeah.
but then there's that little kind of slither of doubt in the back of your mind. It's like, what if I get stumped, or what if I'm doing the wrong decision? I should just play safely. So, like, what for yourself, even from a personal level, like, do you always have that bit of self doubt when you are looking to, turn the gears up a little, or do you just fully have faith that, okay, this feels right in my heart, and obviously it gels with my mind as well, because my brain has processed, "Oh, okay, I can go
Yeah.
after this guy. My heart feels comfortable. Now I'm gonna let it happen." Or do you feel like you're gonna do it, even though you might not feel like from the
Mhm.
heart comfortable to do it, but your brain is kind of telling you to do it? Or is it the reverse? Maybe your heart tells you you feel
Yeah.
like you do it, but then your brain is like telling you,
Yeah,
no, you shouldn't do it.
it can be both ways. Like sometimes you want to take this guy down, but at the end of the day, you switched on in terms of, okay, I don't need to do this. Like in terms of situation, um, I think you touched on it. Like there's always going to be doubt. Like let's be honest. Like sometimes not all the time, but there might be a slither of doubt. But the importance is accepting it, like taking that step back of okay, whether it's pre-ball or in between balls, or even when you're walking away, like I tend to walk away to square leg, just accepting it is important. Like if you have that slither of doubt, and then going through that process again, okay, be like, okay, is this really right? Is this what's required of me at that stage? I remember Curtis Patterson actually gave me a great piece of advice. And right, what does a team require of you at that stage? Of the innings, of that game, of that season, whatever it is, and that helps me keep present. And then you don't really think about that doubt or that sort of stuff. You're just thinking about, okay, what's required of me at that age, of that stage. Yeah, sometimes I guess tactically you can make errors and understand that's probably not the right way to go, but I guess you want to learn from your mistakes, right? So you want to acknowledge it, accept it, and then next time you're put into that situation, you know what you need to do moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice, and I would ask you as well, in terms of the advent of baseball, people would be like, they're not really playing to the situation; they're just playing one way. So what's your take on that? Like when it comes to baseball in comparison to the advice you got from Curtis Patterson?
Yeah. Uh yeah, I don't know. Like that's I guess that's the way they're going about their test cricket at the moment. But last night was perfect in terms of Joe Root sort of went back to old school red ball test cricket batting, left the ball well, understood the situation, was patient, um, good cricketing shots, and he walked off with 120. So I think there's obviously room for baseball. Like they're doing well, and some players are really good at it. In and it's their natural game, whereas guys like who Joe Root, who are really old school technicians of the game, I think they should go stick to that aspect. I think rather than trying to everyone go out there and try to score off ball one or drive on the up or whatever it is, reverse ramp. He did reverse ramp, but he was on 130. So I think there's time and place for it, but I think especially in red ball cricket, I think it's technically I think it's you got to go with that aspect of things in terms of all right, build your innings and go from there.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the individual knowing what's your strengths, what's
Yeah,
your, I think it's a bit hard to expect everyone to play like Rishabh Pant or,
yeah,
in a sense, or like play a Harry Brook the way he runs down the pitch. Like, I think it's not realistic for everyone to just be like, oh, that's just how I am. So
yeah,
I think it just comes down to what each, because even like with Rishabh Pant, like he'll talk about the way he plays, but I'd say like a lot of it is centered around his defense. Like he just knows which ball to play
yeah.
outrageous shots to, right? And trust his
Oh,
instincts, but
he
he
knows
doesn't
where
just
his
kind of do
off
it every
stump
ball.
is. Yeah, he knows where his off stumps is. Like obviously in test match cricket, there's a lot more gaps, so he knows where his zones are in terms of whether it's ramping or hitting over the top. I think you mentioned it nail on the head in terms of okay, understanding your game. Like if you're gonna, you got to understand what your strengths are. Like Harry Brook's still I guess the number two test batsman, so it's working for him and it's his strength. So I think playing that way works for him. Whereas it might not work for, I guess, Joe Root or Zach Crawley or whoever it is. Like finding what works for you is important. And whether that's, I guess, whatever term you want to call it, baseball, if that works for you, that's the way to go. And I guess it keeps people interested in Test cricket.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the heart of it is just, yeah, knowing your game and at the
Mhm.
same time, like understanding the situation, match situation, and kind of adapting when required and knowing, what shot's yours and kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So I think even for yourself, like when it comes to that development of understanding your own game, right? Because you can be really good, like as a player in terms of skill set, but then knowing when to use what skill in what situation is a different skill in of
Yeah.
itself. So when do you feel like, because obviously you've been articulating this point throughout the whole podcast, like when do
Mhm.
you feel like for you that kind of kicked in? Was it always there kind of from a young age because of your dad or
Mhm.
other coaches you've had, or is it something that you've learned to develop over time, in certain situations, maybe after the World Cup or playing
Yeah.
for Australia, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm still learning it till this day. Like I feel like you're always improving that aspect of things in terms of understanding your game. I think once you understand your game, that's when you know you can really trust your game out in the middle as well, and like really believe in it. And then at the end of the day, that's it helps you, I guess, score those runs and succeed. Yeah, it's still something I'm trying to improve on in terms of okay, developing my game, understanding that game, and trusting it. You're never going to figure it out full completely. You're always improving. You're always growing. So finding what works in different situations, I think, and learning from those situations as well is important. Like you're going to make mistakes, but try not to make that same mistake twice is the main thing. Like you don't want to keep making repeated mistakes because then there's no room for growth.
And as well, in terms of psychological tools, do you use like, visualization or I don't know, do yoga or meditation or anything like that? I know you touched on staying present, so I assume that links to meditation or some breath work. So do you use any sort of tools for your batting or before the game or after the game or during the game?
Visualization I use a lot pre-game, and then in terms of understanding who I'm playing, like lucky enough, even in grade cricket, like we get to see who we're playing. You see, you have footage in terms of what each player does. There's chatter. Like lucky enough, I've been playing grade cricket for a while now, so you understand what bowlers do, what they're trying to do. And yeah, breathing is a key aspect in terms of pre-ball routine. Like just sort of slows things down. Like you're always flying, it's high intensity, your mind's racing, just to sort of slow yourself down. Breathing is a massive part for me in terms of pre-ball.
And in terms of as well, when it comes to training, How do you structure your training in particular? Do you just work on your defense, or like do you face certain bowlers, or people have throwdowns before the training? Like what sort of aspects how do you structure your training?
Typically, I guess early on in the week, I'm trying to do my fundamentals, getting the basics right. So whatever that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just really working on the technical aspects of things, like really not like nailing that down. And then typically, I guess when Wednesday and Thursday nights, or even during Friday daytimes, in terms of who I'm playing on the weekend, like understanding, okay, what am I going to be faced with, whether it's leg spin, whoever it is, left arm quicks, and then finding that aspect and training that way. I try to keep like training later on in the week more game like. Price a new wicket in the net, having that situation, set field settings, all that sort of stuff. So trying to train more like a game like scenario later on in the week has really worked well for me. But early on in the week, yeah, definitely get that bulk work in terms of hitting balls, getting that fundamentals right.
In terms of when it comes to bulk work and working through those fundamentals, is it just basically your defense? Like, are you just trying to watch the ball well, like, or are you
Mm.
just trying to make sure that your defense is compact and sound? Is that the
Yeah,
main focus in those situations?
it stems from that. I think in terms of just moving well, like getting your feet moving, shapes are right in terms of where you're finishing positions, stuff like that. Like really basic stuff like driving correctly, shapes, heads in the right spot. Yeah, just keeping it really simple. Key points for me, like I mentioned, balance. So like balance could mean in terms of my trigger position and my head. So like head's going in the right direction, leading with your front shoulder. It could mean all those things, but when I say balance, all those things encompass that. So um, yeah, like that's basically my key focus in those initial parts of the week in terms of okay, getting that right, getting that fundamental right, and that foundation of yeah, it could be that defense, but it stems from that. Like it starts with that defense, but then your strokes build on from that.
And do you work in a way where you get to a point where you feel good, quote unquote, or is it something that you're not really too concerned about because you're more trying to focus on the fundamentals? Because obviously, as batting goes, you feel sometimes great, don't feel that great sometimes, and some people might train so much so that they can try to end up feeling good or feeling confident. Like,
Yeah,
how do you kind of structure your training when it comes to in terms of fundamentals versus feeling good or getting to the point of feeling good?
yeah, definitely. Like growing up and maybe over the last couple of years, it was yeah. You want to hit bulk balls, you want to get that work in, you want to get those reps in. But I think, especially this season, I've gone on that analogy of feeling good. Like if I feel good after I don't know 20 to 30 balls of hitting fundamentals, I feel good. Like I'm happy. I'm in a good mental space. I trust where I'm at. I think that's built over the past few years as well. It hasn't just been there from the beginning. Like I don't know, we're taught about initially we were taught you want to get that bulk work in, you want to hit as many balls as you can, you want to yeah, like repetition, having that muscle memory. But I guess I'm a bit older now in terms of okay, I've had that muscle memory. I want to have that feeling and being in the right space mentally is more important for me rather than hitting bulk balls. Um, and that's I think put me in a good stead. Like if I'm feeling like you said in that feel good scenario, and I'm getting ready for the weekend, I'm happy rather than hitting bulk balls.
And even when it comes to getting into a situation in the game, maybe you've come from a string of low scores. How do you deal with it? Because for any cricketer, it's always frustrating. Like you mentioned, everyone wants to do well. Everyone has that. Some people may be desperate to do so well to prove someone wrong or to get into a team. So how
Yeah,
do you kind of deal with that in particular? Do you do I don't know extra I don't know visualization or extra meditation or anything like that to make sure that you're present for the next game? Like, how do you deal with that emotionally and strategically? How do you kind of go about your next innings?
I think initially is like analyzing what went wrong. Like obviously, if you're going through a tough period of patch, finding is there a specific pattern or is there like completely different dismissals all the time, and finding what's the crew like the key issue at hand. Like sometimes it could be a mental thing, like you're not sticking to your routine, or is it a technical error? So that I think that the importance of analyzing what's going wrong is the first key step, and then training, working it out, whether that be the mental aspect of things or whether that's a technical aspect, using that initial part of the week to work on that. Like I've been in situations where you're thinking about your technique in the game, and I don't think that's a really good place to be in because you're not thinking about at the end of the day, you want to be watching the ball. You're not thinking about what's going on with your hands or your head or your feet. Like, you want to have a clear mind, stick to your routine, watch the ball, and adapt. Like, score accordingly. I think analyze what you're doing wrong, accept it, find work with your coaches or work with whoever it is, whether it's mentally or technically or even tactically. Like, sometimes you feel like you want to take on a bowler, but at that situation it probably wasn't the right thing to do. So trusting like having like a close person to you who understands your game really well, I think is important, and then trusting them and discussing with them to be like, okay, what's the plan moving forward? Because yeah, like as a batsman, you go through tough periods of form, but finding what's the what's the reason for that, and then finding a way to counteract that is important.
And you mentioned an interesting scenario where you're in the game, might be thinking about your technique because hypothetically someone is going through a low patch of scores,
Yeah,
and they're identified that it's a technical thing and they've been working in during the week in training, and then in the game they may realize like they're getting to old habits. So I don't know, like they know that they're sort of slightly edging, and then maybe the ball fell short of
yeah,
the slip cordon, and they're like, oh snap, like I'm
yeah.
falling into my bad habits, and then that kind of messes with the mental process. And so what advice would you give to someone who's in that situation,
I
because
think
they might be frustrated, right? Like
yeah,
they
for
know it's a
sure.
technical thing, but they want to
Yeah,
stay present, so it's like a battle of two different things in their
I think
mind.
the key thing in that scenario is accepting it. Like, sometimes you fight it, you're like, oh no, I want to do this, or I'm not going to go down that path, or I'm not going to go back into my old ways. But one thing, you acknowledged it, like you realize, okay, I've made an error. You got to accept it, and then you got to address what you're going to do moving forward. Like, sometimes, like for instance, I sometimes trigger, and I don't. It's a subconscious thing. You sometimes look at your footage and be like, oh, I don't want to be triggering this much, but it's okay. Like, you can find a way using that, like that shortcoming or that trigger or whatever it is, like that you don't want to be doing in a game. But if it's working in that sort of scenario, use it to your advantage. Like, you don't want to be so like robust in your thinking and like, okay, I can only play this way. Like, I know Steve Smith mentioned at one game where he started triggering in a test match and it worked, and it changed his career. Like, he's been doing it ever since then. So I think you not being so stubborn in your thinking, like being open to that and adapting on the go is important. Yeah, you might not want to be doing it at that point, but you got to accept it and then use it to your advantage. I think that's important. Because if you think it, like, put yourself in a negative frame of mind, I don't like, you're not going to score runs. You're going to be stuck in your feet. You're going to be slow in your thinking. I think acceptance is important, and then moving on from it and using it to your advantage is important.
And in terms of also being not in the best patch of form, it
Mhm.
can obviously be denting someone's confidence from a very emotional, psychological point. No matter what they're doing, like it's just
Mhm.
this sunken feeling, right?
Yeah,
So, what advice do you give to someone in that situation? Because it's an emotional thing that you can try to do what you can to erase it, right?
yeah.
But it's just not going away, and you have to play the next ball, right? So, what advice do you give to someone going through that situation?
I think I mentioned it before. Having someone who knows your game well and trusts, and someone you trust, is important. Like, having these conversations, like keeping these thoughts in your head, sometimes probably not the best way to go. Like, accepting that, talking to someone about it, and finding a way to move forward can really help in terms of building that confidence. Sometimes when someone else is sort of telling you the right thing or giving you that confidence, it can really help. So it's important having that, whoever it may be a parent, it may be a partner, it may be your batting coach, whoever it is, someone that I guess you trust in, and then you can have that conversation with. Because that's important. Like, it can be a dark place, like especially if you have a low string of scores and you're working so hard, you want to play at that next level or whatever it is. You got to have that outlet, and that could be anyone. So it's important to have that conversation.
And what's the outlet for you?
I have a few. Like I mentioned, Neil DeCosta is one of my key batting mentors. So I analyze the game really well with him. Pick his thoughts, understand what he thinks went wrong, went right. And yeah, I've mentioned this before. Dad's a key aspect of my cricketing journey as well. So he understands my game really well. He's seen me grow throughout the years. And yeah, just picking his mind in terms of, okay, what he thought as well, and taking those viewpoints and understanding, okay, this is what I need to do, this is what works for me, and this is what I can do working for moving forward.
And have you ever felt like you openly like disagreed with your coach regarding what might be right or wrong?
Yeah, for sure. Like there's always disagreements, but I think it's important to understand both viewpoints. Um, yeah, you can. I see it happen all the time with young kids. Like they get told one thing, but they think another thing. Like you got to just accept it. Like as a kid, it's okay. Like you think you're right all the time, but once you grow a bit older, you go, okay, like what dad or what the mentor or what the coach was saying was the right thing. So you got to, once you grow a bit older, like once you understand, you'd be like, okay, accept that I might not be always right. Like I might be viewing things from my end. It might look completely fine from my end, but another set of eyes can have a completely different opinion. So it's important to accept that, understand it, and then take it upon whether you need it or not at that point.
And in that case, however, I'm sure in certain moments where even though you have that frame of mind of learning from others and
Yeah.
accepting they might be wrong, you might still take certain things in a way where it's like, no, they're wrong and you're right. And what, I guess, criteria would that be where you're just like, you take your own opinion over someone else's, even though you're coming in, like in this situation, you know that you're with a frame of mind that, yes, they might be right, actually.
I think that's tough. That's just it comes down to like you understanding your game and you trusting what you know. Um, yeah, I think that's tough. That just depends on the scenario and situation in terms of what you're looking at, whether it's technical, tactical, your thought process when you were batting. I think that's a key thing we go through in terms of okay, what were you thinking when you were playing that stroke or that over or whatever it was. Um, yeah, I think that just comes down to the person in terms of whether they want to stick with what they think or they want to take on board what like their key mentors say. Yeah, I think that's entirely individual.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I know I've asked you a lot of questions specifically. I wanted to kind of end on this little game that I've
Yeah.
started playing where we do like a pick your draft 11. So essentially, because of the Ashes is happening in the
Yeah.
context and spirit of the Ashes, it would be cool to pick our own 11s, but it'll be based who will represent Australia to play England. So it has
Yeah.
to be
Okay.
essentially the best team we can come up with. But the
Best team.
criteria is that you can only pick players that you've played with, right? So obviously you play with many,
Could it be
great
played
and high
against as
quality.
well?
No, not against, because
Not
then
against.
you can just start picking Kohli and stuff, and
Yeah.
you can't.
Well, yeah. Australia.
It's
Not.
basically India.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no. No. I get that. No. No.
So it makes it a bit hard. So obviously in the Australian context, like
Yeah.
all the players you've played with, you can pick from them. And obviously, because I'll be picking too, so it will
Yeah.
be a bit harder. You can't
Okay.
get your full like best 11. I'll probably pick a few of the players you'd want to pick. So
Okay.
yeah, and the other criteria is that you have to kind of make your choice in like less than maybe 5 seconds or so. So you don't have much time to think.
Okay. Okay.
But we can kind of discuss after you picked like why you picked them and
Yep.
tell them a
Yep.
little bit about them. So I'll
Okay.
let you go first. I know I've already sent you the list because you're the guest. You can pick. So
Yep.
we're going from number 1 to 11. So you have to pick your opener first, and then number two
Yeah.
bats, and number three,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then
Yeah.
from ascending to descending. So yeah, I'll give you the first pick. Who'd you pick as your number one opening
My
batsman
first
in
pick
your
would
team?
be Jake Weatherald.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So when did you play with him?
So I actually played. I was in the. We went to Chennai together in terms of those games with the national performance squad. Um, yeah,
I think he's on like what's he on now? He's on 80 runs or so, right?
yeah, they must be batting really well.
Yeah, he's on 59. Okay, so yeah,
Nice.
hopefully
Yeah,
yeah, he's
well,
killing
there
it
you go.
already for
He's
England
already there.
against England. So that's good news. We've got some really good players, but I
Yeah.
think for the sake of subcontinent background, I have to be a little biased. And I know you probably pick Sanger at some points. So I have to steal him from you. So I'll pick
Oh
Jason
wow.
Sanger
Okay. Nice.
as opener. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
tactical move.
Yeah. Tactical. Okay. I'll go with Nathan McSweeney up top with Jake Weatherald. Someone I've played.
Basically, both Aussie players played in the last few years.
Yeah.
So
Well,
good pairing. Yeah,
yeah. It's a good pairing up top.
I'll go with. I might steal him away from you as well because you've mentioned him on the podcast already. Curtis Patterson, maybe open with Jason Sanger.
Okay. Nice. That was actually going to be my next pick, but nice. I
Your turn, number
My turn.
three.
Batting at number three. Oh, I'm going to go with Tim Ward. He's currently
Okay,
playing for
nice.
Tasmania. Played a lot of cricket with him growing up and the last couple of years down in Tassie. So, yeah, I think he's going to be my number three.
It's amazing, and So I'll pick, and also just bear in mind you have to pick a wicket keeper at some point as
Yeah.
well.
Are we
So
going based off current form? Are we going all time or
yeah, we'll go all time.
all time? Okay, okay.
So I'll pick number three. I think I'll go for some really good names here, but I'll go Ed Cowan. I think he gives me a
Yes.
bit of security. And number
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you played with him for New South Wales, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. I actually made my debut for New South Wales with them, and that was actually his last game. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So I was lucky
How was
enough.
that like actually? Like was there
Yeah,
celebrations after or something?
yeah. Like, we didn't end up winning the game, but obviously it was an amazing career. Played a lot of cricket for New South Wales and Australia. So yeah, just it was a phenomenal guy and good to be a part of.
That's amazing. So who would be your number four pick?
My number four would
And you can have a
be,
look at the all rounders by the way, so you've got some options there.
yeah, for sure. My number four is going to be Moses Enriquez.
Oh, I knew you were gonna pick him. He's like the name that stands out.
Yep.
Yeah, quality player. So I assume you also played with him alongside
Yeah.
Ed Cowan in that game. Yeah,
Yeah.
very.
He was my
He's
captain at that time. Yeah.
wealth of experience. Like, what sort of learnings did you take from him as well? Because he's played a lot of franchise cricket as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of tests.
Definitely in terms
Sheffield.
of his leadership skills as well. Like, he read the game so well, understood the scenario, understood. He actually sometimes predicted what was going to happen after as well. So just using that experience, his ability to know the batter as well, what they were looking at, how to find a way of getting him out, and just managing his team well. He's really good at understanding what makes other people tick and just getting the best out of them. I think that was really important and something I learned from him.
Yeah, amazing. He's a big name in Australian cricket and,
Mhm.
and domestic as well. So that must have been such a privilege.
Yeah.
And so I've got my number four. I have to, bit of a tough one to be honest. I will pick. Okay, I'll pick. What's speaking to me? I think I'm feeling Nick Madison. I'll pick Nick
Okay.
Madison,
Yeah.
number four.
Nice.
So I assume as well New South Wales
Yeah,
that
yeah,
squad.
yeah,
Yeah. Who would you
yeah.
be your
My
number
number
five?
five would be Cameron Green.
Oh, okay, wow. So you did play with him
Yeah, we
in.
played like, obviously did that underage tour with him to Sri Lanka. Did the MRF trip with him, and then played like a lot of underage games with him as well. So
Okay, nice. And at that age, I know you mentioned it before, but he was both was he more of a batsman than bowler or bowler than batsman at that age?
he was, I think he was more of a bowler at that point. Like, I remember when he first came in to state cricket, he took a five for on debut. So he's still got the ability to bowl very quick. But yeah, I guess once those injuries hit, he's obviously had that knack of scoring big runs as well, and he worked hard at his batting. So I think he's just a genuine all rounder that's elite both bat and ball.
Yeah, definitely. And I would pick my number five. I'd probably pick Bo Webster.
Yeah.
So I know you
Cool.
played with him. Was
Yep.
it
Yep.
for the Cricket Australia
Yeah, 11. Yeah,
11?
that's a good pick. That's a great pick.
So who would you choose your number
My
six?
number six. I'm gonna go. I'll go with Jack Edwards.
Okay, good player.
Current,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
current.
he like open the batting from what I saw like the younger
Yeah,
days as well.
yeah. He used to open in all our white ball cricket growing up, and I think he opened for New South Wales early on in his career as well, especially in the white ball format. So he's well equipped to bat anywhere in that order.
And was he bowling as much as he is now back then as well?
No, he's definitely his last couple of years. It looks amazing. Like, he's obviously taking that new ball. He's taking those leadership duties as well. So he's excelling in all aspects of that game of the game.
Yeah, because I think even he's part of the A team tours and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah,
and he's bowling really well. So yeah, good on him. Hopefully, he does get some more opportunities as well. Higher
yeah, for
honors.
sure.
Number six, I would choose. Ooh, okay, gets a little trickier here, but I will pick. I have to pick a. I have to probably pick a keeper unless no. Can Nick Madison keep?
No, I don't think so.
No, no. Okay. Or Curtis Patterson. I don't know. They're
Don't
part-time
think.
keepers by any chance? No, it's a bit hard. I have to pick someone. So I'll pick probably Peter Neville.
Oh, okay.
So
My
yeah, your number
keeper.
seven.
Mine's number seven will be my keeper. Yeah. My number 7 is going to be.
Yeah, it's a
I'll
tough
go.
one.
I'll go with Josh Filippo.
Ah, okay, yes, good pick.
Yeah, he actually scored, basically nearly scored a double hundred against us on the weekend. So he's been in some serious form.
And when did you play with him alongside him?
So we play. I was in that NPS squad, that squad that went to India with him for that MRF. Played a lot of those trial games with him there. Um, yeah, and I think he was part of that CA setup a while ago as well.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
All right, so I have to pick my number 7. My number 7 will be. Well, it's a little tricky, but I will pick. Go a little left field. I might go with Max Bryant down the
yeah, okay,
order.
nice, explosive.
Yeah, something a bit different.
Yep,
Need
yep,
someone down the order to, yeah,
yep.
because Peter Neville, Webster all steady. Maybe Madison will pick up the gears, but yeah, need someone at 7 to go ham.
Nice. Okay,
All right,
nice.
number 8.
Okay, well, I'm going to go 8 with my spinner, Stephen O'Keefe.
Oh, okay, solid. Yeah, no
One of the
questions.
one of the greatest
No
I've.
questions there.
Yeah, one of
So
the
yeah,
great.
like he's obviously been a stalwart in domestic and Sheffield United has played for Australia. So what was that experience playing with you? What did you
Yeah,
learn from him?
just true competitor. Understood the game so well. To be able to mentally manipulate the batter as well, just with a few words here and there, I thought was amazing. Obviously, he had an amazing skill set, but just getting into the mind of the batter, I think was amazing and good to see. And just the way he dictated the game, just from ball one, was really good to see. I remember he took the first game I'd played, he took 7 for not many. So just to see him go about his business was phenomenal.
That's amazing, and
Yeah,
what you just reminded me of. I forgot to ask you this question early on, but in the under 19 World Cup against England, like I think Australia under 19 team made only
yeah,
112, 120, and
yeah,
then Lloyd Pope, because I'm looking at his name right now, and then you just said
yeah,
7, so it just
yeah,
reminded me, and he got an 8 for to bowl England out for
yeah,
like 80 odd, I think. So that
yeah.
must have been the
That,
craziest
that,
game.
that
Tell us a
was
bit
that
more.
was that was wild. Like we obviously didn't score that many. Like we only got 110, and I think Sang scored 50 of them. And they flew out of the block. So I think Tom Banton was 30 or 40 of not many. So like the situation we were in, and for Popey to come in and take 8 for not many and completely change the game, and the fact that it was a knockout game was phenomenal. Like the pace of that was the game. The pace of that game was going was just unreal, and to see him run through the England side was good to watch.
Yeah, I can imagine because I mean, one of like not that it compares in the slightest, but I played this park grade game when I was like
Yeah,
18, 19, where we were like 50 all out in a final, and then we bowled out the team for 30 or something crazy like that.
yeah,
So like, the team morale just goes off
yeah,
the charts, like
off the
wins like
charts.
that. So I can imagine for yourself, like it's similar situation, but you're playing, in the World Cup, you're playing against England as well, like the Ashes enemy. So that
Yeah,
must have been like
yeah,
insane, like hype.
it was,
Everyone must have been pumped.
yeah, insane.
Yeah, because I think all those kind of victories like leave an imprint like for the rest of your life. Like it's just one of those memories. You're just like, yeah, this is why I play the game for, you know.
Oh, for sure. Like to see him do that at that stage and that point of his career was unreal, and that obviously opened up heaps of opportunity for him. But for him to do that at that stage of that tournament was just unreal.
That's amazing. And for my number 8 bowler, I'll probably have to probably start picking a pacer. So I'll go with Xavier Bartlett since he can bat a little. So that's
Yep.
my pick.
Okay. Nice.
So yeah, who would your number 9 be?
My number 9 would be Pat Cummins.
Oh, okay, wow. Completely
Uh,
forgot.
yeah.
I should have. I don't have him on the list for some reason. I think,
Yeah.
right? Did I leave him out? Yeah.
You missed the big
Yeah,
three.
the big fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm guessing. Have you played with Josh Hazelwood?
Yeah.
Okay, then I have to pick him.
Yeah. You go with
I,
Hazel.
I can't have you get the Australian team
Yeah. No,
in your
that's
in
fair.
it.
Hey, that's fair. So
All
you
right, so
go
your
with
number
Hazel.
10 and 11 are left.
Yeah.
Who's your number 10 be?
So I've gone with Cummins. I'd go left hander, left arm quick. I played with Spencer
Played with.
Johnson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I
he
know,
has
I
that.
know you also played against him in. age cricket, or did you only play
Nah, not in age
alongside him?
group career. We played together in that CA stuff. So yeah, he has that raw pace and ability to swing that.
So you face him in like the nets. Like, how was that? Was he like
Yeah,
one of the
that
quickest
was
you faced?
yeah one of the quickest. I remember facing. Actually, that's it's going to be my last pick. I'm not going to spoil it. Who I'm going to pick that
Oh,
last.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
All right, strategic. All right. So
yeah.
number 10, I'll pick. Okay, some good names here, but I think I'll go with. I'll go Jack Edwards since he's in good form.
I have.
Actually,
I
I'll go
already
with
picked.
Jack Edwards. Oh, you
I've
already
picked.
picked him. Oh
I've,
yeah, you picked him at 6.
oh,
Sorry, yeah, good. Yeah,
he's in
fair
my top
shout.
40 all rounders.
All right, I'll go with Sean Abbott because he can
Okay,
bat.
yeah, nice pick.
All right, Sean Abbott. All right, you just have your number 11 left.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jai Richardson.
Oh wow, okay, good. He's playing right now as well for
Yeah,
Australia, I
I think he's
think.
playing that Aussie A game. Yeah, hopefully he's back from injury and doing amazing things. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I have to pick my number 11. This will
yeah,
be a bit tough, but I think I'll go with someone to be underrated, but done tremendously well in Sheffield Shield, Trent Copeland.
yeah, I saw that name come through.
Yeah, so I'll probably pick him a bit left field. But yeah, I think so. I'll read out the teams. So your
Yeah,
team was Jake Weatherald, McSweeney up top, pretty solid. Tim Ward, number 3 for some stability. Number 4, Moises Enriquez. 5 is Cameron Green. 6, Jack Edwards. 7, Josh Philippi. 8, Steve O'Keefe. 9, Pat Cummins. 10, Spencer Johnson. 11, Jai Richardson. That's a pretty strong team. I'd
yeah,
back it against England, honestly, at
yeah.
this rate. Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty solid, eh?
that's not bad.
So my
Considering
team
we've
is
done it on the spot too, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. A few of them also already playing too. So
Yeah,
it's amazing. For my team is Jason Sanger as opener with Curtis Patterson. Number 3 is Ed Cowan. 4 is Nick Madison. 5 is Bill Webster. 6 is Peter Neville. 7 is Max Bryant. 8 is Xavier Bartlett. 9 is Josh Hazelwood. 10 is Sean Abbott. 11 is Trent Copeland. So I have
yeah,
some batsmen
nice.
till number 10. So I think
Yeah,
my batting's a
you
bit
bat
longer,
deep.
but
You bat deep.
yeah. But yeah, strong teams all around. So
Yeah, nice.
now
No,
that was
that's good
yeah.
fun.
We'll let the viewers decide who would win against each other. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's
So
good fun.
no, that was great. I appreciate sharing your stories. I might wrap up with a question or two.
Yeah,
In
for sure.
terms of best bowlers that who's the best bowler you face, spinner and pacer, and on top of that as well, like in terms of batsmen, who's the best batsman you've seen, like you've played alongside, where you're like, wow, like it might not necessarily be a big name. I know you mentioned Jitesh Sharma and
Yeah,
stuff, but someone
yeah.
else like in the Australian context where you feel like, wow, he's like really gun, but a bit underrated. Like no one really says his name as much I guess in the media or in the public as well.
Okay. In terms of the most challenging, like I had the privilege or lucky enough to face the big three quicks as much in the nets when I was part of the squad. So seeing them, like Stark Cummins, Hazelwood, they're the best you can get. Like they were top of the tree. Spinning wise, I mentioned this before. Stephen O'Keefe was one of the best I've ever seen. Just the way he could figure out a batsman and just talk you into things was pretty damn cool. In terms of best batsman, like besides obviously the big dogs in terms of like Steve Smith, Marnus, I'll say like I think Tim Ward, someone I've seen closely. I've played a lot of cricket with him. I think he's playing a lot of Shield cricket now and doing well, and I think hopefully plays at that next level and gets his chance for Australia. So I think yeah, Tim Ward.
No, I appreciate sharing that. Yeah, look, audience better watch out for Tim Ward. That's a good
Yeah.
shout as well. So I appreciate your time on the show. I don't know if you had any final thoughts, anything you wanted to share before we wrap up that you didn't get a chance to
No, no,
mention.
definitely. I appreciate you having me on board and having this chat. It's nice to actually reflect on the journey so far. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on board.
No, I appreciate your time as well, and it's always full of gems. Like talking to someone like yourself who's been through it all and interacted and played it with and against all these big names, and as well, and even for yourself, playing higher honors for Australia under 19s is a big achievement of itself, and to be able to do well in that level and make the final as well of a World Cup, I'm sure like that's special for yourself. And so I appreciate you having this chat. So I'll probably wrap it up there.
Yeah.
For our listeners, feel free to check us out. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, iTunes as well. So give us a like and subscribe to us there. And we're also on Instagram and TikTok. So we make reels and we post it up there. So make sure to support us. We're still growing. So feel free to check us out and share with your friends and family. So from our special guest Param Uppal, we wish you the best. This is Tanzim signing off. Thank you very much.